Welcome to SportChant Interviews, hosted by Rich Glanzer. Hey everybody, this is Richie Glanzer for SportChant Interviews. Today, I'm with NFL player agent Jimmy Durkin. Jimmy, how are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So, we're a little before the NFL draft when we start this podcast. So tell me a little about how busy, how many players you have in the draft and how busy you are.
I would say right now we're getting to what you would call like crunch time. So because of COVID, I couldn't go to as many games and meet kids in person and stuff. So it was a lot of Zoom things. So we have 4 kids that are draft eligible and have draft grades. So last night I was on with 3 scouts getting feedback, contact numbers for draft day and, contacting airports for the players, because if they drafted or signed, they're going to fly out.
Yeah. So, okay. So like, this is kind of like interesting. Like when you say like draft eligible, what makes somebody draft eligible?
If they have declared after 3 years removed from high school.
Okay.
So your stars that don't want to chance an injury because of the draft stock will drop, and then they can declare after their junior year. So that would make them draft eligible. For the most part, they're seniors in high school in college that have played football at a higher level and declare for the draft or made eligible for the draft.
All right. So now I'm going to get a little into your story here because it's definitely different than most, I would say, agents in professional sports. First off, what was your day job for a long time and how did you get into this?
My day job was the NYPD. I ran a detective squad, many friends, and great time. So I was always involved in football, playing all the way up. And I'm one of those guys that probably never grew up because I was playing tackle football with the NYPD and the Brooklyn Mariners forever. And then lots of friends over the years. And then I was playing. I have a lot of friends in the NFL through running and coaching, the organization. So we're playing softball. And one of the guys, Joey Porter, who played for the Raiders, he was at Green Bay, he played about 17s. He's a Rutgers star. He was talking about, the agency business. And he just had mentioned, he goes, the kind of guy I would trust is someone like Jimmy. So then my other friend, Lee Rusan, who was a star with the Giants, said, well, why don't you become an agent? You're a lawyer. And I'm like, whatever. Then my wife said, take the test. And then one thing led to another. I took the test because coaching college football was just too much time. I just couldn't do it with my kids and work and all that. I just didn't have enough time in the day to do it. So this keeps me involved in the game. I'm sorry?
Where did you coach in college? Say it again.
Oh, University of Dayton.
Oh, okay. And what were you as a coach? Like what kind of coach?
I coached at a JUCO for 2 years, and then I had offers. Clausen offered me a job at Fordham. Coach Foley offered me a job at Fordham. I was going to get a grad assistant at a couple of major colleges. I just couldn't fit it into the scheme of working with the police department and putting that many hours in. It just didn't fit in. Then I was going to retire and then do that, but you don't start out at a lot of money. I still had to pay, bills.
Yeah. So it's just, I think, pretty fascinating that you practiced law. You also were, NYPD cop and an agent. So tell us about practicing law and how that's helped you to become an agent.
Well, I would say it's a good segue because you understand the law. And I think the contract aspect of it and the legal terms and understanding collective bargaining agreements it's beneficial to be an attorney. And the attorney thing is something that, when I graduated college, I accepted to law school, but I was paying my own way through college and I had no money. So I took the family job, which is the NYPD. So
Meaning your whole family has been cop
yes, yeah,
before.
that's the family job.
Yeah.
So, and then I had to take, I was telling my friend Pete, I had to take the LSAT and everything over again because it expired. And then I applied, I got accepted to about 6 law schools, and I went, and I was going full-time during the day and working 4 to 12s. And
So how hard is it to become you've taken the bar, you've taken the NFL agents test. Compare, and which one's harder?
well, the agent test was a little hard for me because, if you can believe this, I failed the background check for the NFL. And
How did that happen?
yeah, and what happened was you pay all this money for a background check, and I do background checks all the time, and they confused me with someone that was in prison. So they failed the background check, and then the legal official from the NFLPA just happened to call me. He goes, Jimmy, aren't you a cop and an active member of the bar? I go, yes. He goes, well, you failed the background check. He goes, but your thing came across, and you were the only person that's been a cop, going into the business. So it perked my interest. That's why I did some investigation for you. And then I found out there was a mistake. And then I got the information, the pack and everything to study a little later than everyone else. So since I know criminal law and I know football, I really didn't know the collective bargaining stuff. So I studied as hard as I could, and I wound up passing it. So it was hard. I'm not going to say it easy, because what I'm seeing the numbers now, when you look at Neil Stratton's site on Inside the League, I think it's like 40% of the are only passing the test. So it is a difficult test.
So, with all due respect to the Dos Equis, man, you kind of are the most interesting man in the world. Like,
in my own mind, yes.
so now, listen, I'm a big sports fan, right? But I don't really know what it's like to be an agent. I don't know the ins and outs. And I think it's kind of fascinating because, like, we hear Scott Boras, we're hearing more about Rachel Lubia, who's Trevor Bauer's agent in baseball, but we don't, of course, everyone's watched Jerry Maguire, which I'm sure isn't real.
It's real for Drew Rosenhaus. It's not real for the rest of America.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I tell people, and my wife, he says, oh, tell them what else you do. And I'll say, yeah, I'm a player agent. And they go, oh my God, that's so cool. Who do you have? Do you represent Eli Manning? And I'm like, no, here's the reality. The reality is that you have to pay your dues and, get some of the players that may not the known name players, represent them, get them on teams, and then, negotiate with that and then build it up. But what we kind of did is we made 5 of us came together and we formed our own agency, which seems to be beneficial because we work off each other. So when you have that many more players represented as a group.
When was your what's the agency called? And also, when was who was your first client and what year was it?
My first client, I lucked out in the beginning because I have a connection with Rutgers and I have friends there. So one of the first, I think it was 2014 or 2015, their tight end, I signed him and he got signed by the Raiders, Paul Carazola. Great kid.
Okay.
Real hard worker, but like anything, it's the NFL. It's just because you're the greatest of the greats playing in the Big Ten doesn't, it's hard to stick in the NFL.
So what happened with him?
He stuck around and he didn't make it. And then, he went on to his next life. He uses degree and his knowledge of football. I think he the last I spoke, he's coaching high school football and teaching, I think the last I spoke to him.
So when you get a player, and I was speaking to you a little about this in the pre-interview, you told me you're not going to get Trevor Lawrence because it would cost so much money for you that and he would need all of the amenities that like a big agency can give. So can you explain why they get those guys?
I think I could talk to people about football, and I think that I'm not patting myself on the back, but I am an anomaly in the union because of the law enforcement background. So people want to hear police stories. I tell them funny police stories. They laugh, you know. I actually have a real funny one if you want to hear it.
Sure.
But the it's the fact of the matter is that the big thing with kids now is they want to train at a facility. So I'm a big proponent of that. If you're training, you have to train what's going to prepare you best for your pro day or the combine, and then impress the scouts. So, like, I'll tell kids flat out, like, they say, well, I want to go here in Tampa. And I'm like, well, do you want to go on vacation or do you want to go and train? So some things you can't help it with. The quarterbacks, they have to go to warm weather, be able to throw outside. They have to have receivers to throw to. So I can understand that. But what the thing is with the training is that if they go, I'll take a school, a Big Ten school, they're going to want to train in Tampa. I'll throw a place out, Yo Murphy's place, and they want to train there. So it's the condo, the meals, the training, the quarterback coach, the renting a car, the flights back and forth. So all of that has to come out of the agent's pocket, which is not a big deal if you signing,
Yeah, great player.
Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson or any kid that has a 1 to 4 grade, because with signing bonuses and the pay, you're going to get your money back. It's the kids that are on the back end. You have to make a educated decision if they're going to make a roster, because like anything else, it's business decisions. And I don't want to tell the kid I don't believe in you, but if you're going to shell out money for training, you have to at least know you're getting it back.
Yeah. I mean, that's so I want to go back. First of all, what's your agency's name again?
NA3 Sports.
NA3 Sports. Okay. And you said you had a funny police story. I kind of want to get to that. Before
what it is? It's just people ask me funny things, and I think the funniest thing is one thing. I was working one day, and everyone knows in detective squad, the other sergeants and lieutenants knew that I was a sports fan. They go, "Oh, Jimmy, we got the Subway Series, and we volunteered you to go." I go, "Oh, okay, thanks a lot that you volunteered me."
Are you talking about the Subway, the 2000 Mets versus Yankees
Yes.
World Series?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the funny thing is the inspector calls me because, "Jimmy, I set you up with the VIP gate." I says, "Okay, that's nice," which was real nice to meet people, but not to watch the game because it was an elevator up. So all the detectives watched the game, and I was in charge, so I had to watch everyone go through. And I'm seeing Boomer Esiason go through. Gunner went through with him. All these Hollywood people, they're all going through the VIP gate.
Yeah.
So then I see Jack Nicholson walk through and I see him walk through, and I'm with the detective. He walked through. I say, "Hey, Jack, how you doing?" So he walks through, and then at the end of the game, it was complete chaos because the Yankees beat the Mets at Shea.
Yeah.
So the Met fans were all disappointed. So Jack Nicholson walks out, and he's standing next to me, and all the detectives are around. So it's like complete chaos, and he's looking for his driver. So I said, "Miss Nicholson, you want one of the detectives to walk with you to your car?" And he's like, "Nah, that'll be quite all right, Sarge." So I said, "This is the opportunity." So I said, one of my favorite movies, A Few Good Men. So I said to him, I said, "Miss Nicholson, I just want to let you know I've served in the forward area." And he looks at me and goes, "You ever put your life in another man's hands, have him put his in yours?" So then he winks at me and walks away. So all the detectives go, "What, do you know him or something?" I go, "Yeah, man, you can't go way back. We're buddies."
That is a fantastic movie, by the way. I've watched that many times, and you do a great Nicholson. That's
well, you have to put it in the part, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just another job for you. It's just another job for you after the agency goes. It's gonna be
Yeah, I just stand up.
Yeah. So what is your relationship that you have as an agent with the NFL? Like, what about that?
Well, there, I have a good relationship because I've made a lot of friends over the year that work in the NFL, whether they were coaches that were at certain colleges, they're in the NFL now. So I know them. So I can call them on the phone. There's guys that are local that are working, there's about 4 guys that were local here that are working for the Dolphins, Brian Flores' crew. So I can get the feedback of where the players are and, the intangibles that go into the business.
So now, when you were saying yesterday, like a big part of making money as a agent is that second contract. So the rookie contract is the rookie contract. You get 3% of all contracts. That's just standard NFL. But tell us about how important it is to get that second contract.
Well, because the second contract is the guaranteed money with the signing bonuses and the amount is exponential compared to the typical rookie contracts. Because if you get a kid that's from the 5th round to the 7th round or the priority free agent, the signing bonuses are not that big. If it's a priority free agent, most of them top off at $10,000. So that's the only guarantee out of the contract. They're not guaranteed to make the team. And if they make the practice squad, agents don't get paid on the practice squad.
Yeah.
So, they're making $8,400 a week and you're not. So the second contract is where the kids are, a 5th round draft choices have been really good. And then the contract expires and he's a free agent. We'd like, obviously like to stay with the team sometimes, and get re-signed with guaranteed money. But, they always say that an NFL career is like 3.5 years. That really isn't 3.5 years, because if you take quarterbacks and kickers out of the equation, it lowers even more. So, the kids want to make money. And obviously, we have one kid that's on his 3rd contract. So he's on his 2nd, free agent contract. COVID killed a lot. The only thing bad about this year is COVID, because the salary cap went down because the revenue wasn't there. I think the numbers I looked at I know that they're in the billions of what the NFL lost this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's like 4 billion or something.
It's understandable, with no fans, no concessions. I was bound
No
to happen.
parking revenue, no, the team store, all that money that you think about when a guy goes and brings his 2 kids there, he brings his 2 sons, he's going for all the snack money, the parking, the tickets. Then you can't go buy. You have to go in there, the souvenir store, and the kid wants 2 jerseys. They all both want a jersey. So dad's dropping, $750 or $1,000 for, taking his kid to a ball game.
Now, how much relationships do you have with your players on a personal level?
I want to be the guy, and I think that you can call me like kids. I had a kid that with the Falcons 5 years ago, and he called me up to try and get him a job as a grad assistant in colleges. So I'd like to have the personal level, but the other thing, sometimes it punches you in the face, because the next thing you know, that you think you have a great relationship with a kid and he fires you and he signs up with someone else. That's the only thing, they're bilateral contracts that we sign with each other, and anyone can terminate it. But I mean, we've gone out to dinner, the kid, what, I'm not saying one kid I have a better relationship with the other, but one of the kid was local and he's with the Jets. So, me and my wife went out to dinner with them, we stay in touch, we have a good relationship. I think you have to have a good relationship, and this is my personal opinion, that if you treat it like totally as a business, you take that familiarity away from each other, and it doesn't work as well. So I keep in touch on send them texts. I let him know what's going on in my life and his life. One of the kids in particular, I send him more police department stuff. He loves wearing the NYPD stuff. So that's, but I do think that you should have some relationship with your players. That's me. Some people will treat it straight as a total business, but why have a guy that, that just matter of factly, contract business, and all caring about money and not caring about the kid as a person.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that a lot. Like, you know, I mean, we hear like the player, like, for instance, it's just like, you know, again, I'm going with Jerry Maguire. So like one of the things was when the bad guy played by Jay Moore,
Yeah.
he's had do you remember the stripper's name from like Cancun? And he's like, no, he goes, I do. It's Miranda. I'm making up names, whatever. He's like,
Right.
that's my job. So, but do you ever have to get into like, you know, like that type of level with these people, like, you know, that you have their back on, you know?
Well, the only thing is like, I won't mention it because, but there's certain kids have had a little things where I had to do the call to some other cop because they mentioned my name. So I want to know that they could always, you know, I can straighten things out for them. So I would say that it's good that I tell them, and that's the one I talk to the parents too when it's on them. I said, listen, you have to know that my phone is by my bed and you can call me up. If you get stopped at 2:00 in the morning or you need some advice, you can call me all the time. I think the relationship works better that way. If it blows up in my face and it terminates me, so be it. You
Yeah.
know? Listen,
Now,
agents get blamed for a lot of times for kids not making teams, and it's not the agent because it's, you know, does your personality and relationship with a team help you? Yes. But the bottom line is to look for the best football player. So if Jimmy Durkin is best friends with the head coach of some team, is not going to keep his player on a team.
yeah, exactly.
He
Now,
might give a tryout, you know, a second look, but it's not going to give them anything that they don't deserve.
so I want to get to one of your players, which I think is the most interesting one that kind of like the story went a little viral. Tell me about a guy named Blake.
Isn't that the best? Blake is probably one of my favorite kids because one, he's from Northwestern. He's brilliant. He's beyond brilliant.
It's Blake
And
Hans, by the way, right? So
I'm sorry,
Blake Hans.
Blake Hans. Blake Hans is brilliant. Went to Northwestern, and he's a 4-year starter at Northwestern. So he's a 4-year starter at a Big Ten school. So he is a phenomenal offensive lineman. But look, now I'm giving you a kid that's a 4-year starter at a Big Ten school that still wasn't drafted. I thought he was going to get drafted, but he still wasn't drafted, signed a free agent contract. Paid his dues. He was with Buffalo, Jacksonville, then he's with the Jets. And what happened was he was on the practice squad of the Jets. And I have some friends that are coaching at Cleveland. And it's probably left over from one of my friends was from Rutgers, was a DB coach there. So I knew guys and we talked. So I get a call the Saturday before the season ends. And one of the scouts calls me and goes, does Blake want to come to Cleveland? So I says, well, let me call him. And because you're allowed, if someone's not activated, another team can sign them off the practice squad. They end the relationship and they sign another team. So I said, Blake, Cleveland's calling. I said, they win today, you go to playoffs, the whole deal. And he goes, oh my God. I go, and it was COVID time. And the beauty of it was Cleveland was home. So he didn't have to get on a plane. He could drive there and not have to go through the COVID worry of being on a plane.
Yeah.
So he drove there and got there, and it was on the active roster. That's the thing with the collective bargaining agreement. If they sign you off to the practice squad, they have to activate you for at least 3 games.
Okay.
So you're getting, instead of $8,400, you're getting an NFL minimum.
Yeah.
Per game.
Which is what?
I think it was almost 40,000. I don't know, because different kids, different numbers, but it was in that area. So it was like almost 5 times the amount you would make on practice squad. And the Jets weren't going to the playoffs. The season was going to end. So we looked at everything and decided, life's a gamble. Let's go. So he got in the car, drove. They played the Steelers, beat the Steelers. He had to learn the playbook in 3 days. I think he only played on the extra point team. The next week, now he has a full week of practice. Oh, no, I think they were still in COVID protocols, and they wound up playing the Steelers again, the first round of playoffs.
Yeah.
And then, of course, things play. He was on field goal, extra points, and I think punt return. He was on playing special teams. All of a sudden, the guy goes down and he steps up and he played, I mean, phenomenal. And even if you listen to Chris Collinsworth, and now Michaels afterwards, they were talking about him, how some guy Blake came in and played well, and then they interviewed him after they interviewed Baker after the game, and that's
Mayfield, the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns,
right? And Baker says he goes, and everyone stepped up. I'm so proud of my teammates. And some guy in the locker room that I just met before the game, Blake, and then it took off from there. Then what happens the next game, he has a starring role because the kid went down early. Michael Dunn, I believe, got injured early. And then Blake played almost the whole game and and the beauty of it, he played one game at guard and one game at tackle. So it showed his versatility.
And he was rewarded quite nicely, right? Yeah, you were
well, yeah, he has a 2-year contract with them, and he's there and he's grinding, and I think there's going to be big things because I think his work ethic, his intelligence is beyond, comparison to other people, just because, I mean, that Northwestern education is like the Stanford kid. I'm not knocking this brilliant kids all over, but I'm saying you get into Northwestern, you're intellectually, above a lot of other people. It's a Big Ten.
But it's just it's a really fun agent story because, this is a guy that, no one's really going to know. He's on the practice squad of the Jets, the second worst team in football. And to be honest, I've watched almost every Jet game. They probably were the worst team in football.
Just arguments there, they may have been the worst, right? Think about it. They lost that game to the Raiders on the last second bomb. Who lose on a bomb at the end of the game?
Yeah, the cover zero, right? Or
yes,
or was it?
They were sending people, and it cost Coach Williams his job by sending that all-out blitz. But some people are more aggressive than others.
At the time, every Jet fan most Jet fans were happy because they thought they were getting Trevor Lawrence out of it.
Well, I'm not a big proponent of that. I think that you play to win. I don't like fans, the casual fan. It's funny. I was just reading something by Sage Rosenfels, and he says about people watching film. People don't watch film. Like, I watch film. I actually break down film and watch it, and then it's how I sign guys. But the fact of the matter is that he got beat and it caused a draft choice. But I think that you play to win, and that's the mindset. And you look over the years, and I don't like knocking players because they're all great. If you make it to the NFL, you're one of the 1.5% greatest players around to make it to the NFL. Yeah. But you look at all the top round draft choices of quarterback that haven't made it. And I think Trevor Lawrence will. I'm not saying that. But to play for a draft choice or draft position, I don't like that you say, oh, let's lose the rest of the games.
So it's funny you mentioned that because we have on our podcast, we actually did a podcast about tanking. And one of the hosts, Dimitri, who's not here right now. So he made a great point. He said, listen, when you lose every game, you might get the best player, but all the other players and they all matter, they all have a losing culture. They just loss after loss after loss, and it drains on you. And so you're coming into this losing culture, and that has to affect you the next season and seasons going forward because all they know is losing. So that's why, when you play to win the game, someone said that, right?
Herm. Yeah. But you know what it is too? You look at it too. When you get a number one draft choice, is that changing your team? No, it really is. It going to make a dramatic change? It was year after year, and you look at it. The Patriots had a down year, but the Patriots have been the excellence year after year with having back end draft choices.
Yes, that's the key because they have a winning culture. So every play of their player becomes
and they buy into it.
Yeah,
I agree with you. When people buy into things, it changes.
I mean, but actually, so that's another interesting point. We all know Tom Brady was 199th draft pick, I believe, in the year 2000. Is that a player that you could get, or is he still going to go to a big agency out of college? Like, I know,
Well, it's a Big Ten school, but listen, I'm confident in myself and the other guys that we could talk to any player, and I could, have a little bit more of a diverse background. We've had guys drafted. We have guys in the NFL. It's the thing that I go back to is, pulling the money out the train.
Yeah.
Obviously, but still, you have a quarterback. There's a Big Ten quarterback. He's going to want to go to some quarterback guru, and train with him and work with him, and it costs money. It's the layout. Quarterbacks are hard because a lot of times the teams will hide him on the practice squad, so the money's not coming back then. In the
Got it.
beginning.
Okay. So it's really hard for the small guys to stay with the
Get
big guys.
swallowed up. Yes, a lot of guys give it up and they get swallowed up by the bigger agency. Listen, it's one of those things you have to make the effort. You're not going to see something happen overnight. Like now we're seeing, players making rosters and things like that. I would say within the next 2 years that will expand even more. It's like everything. You have to be willing to put your time in and talk to players, meet players, go to games, and go from there. And then
So
if you do it, like I've signed. I especially like offensive linemen. I think they're the unsung heroes of the NFL. They work so hard, but now this draft I have 4 offensive linemen, and Blake is part. Because you could say, hey, that guy Blake, that's me, and they all see themselves. Well, Blake is the kind of guy like I see myself as, a starter at a big time school, didn't make it, but he's a grinder and creating opportunities. He goes from there. And I give all the credit to the kids. I don't take credit and say, I got you here. They got there because of the hard work and the effort. Am I a prodder? And, I told you I had a tight end from East Carolina I think I had him 14 tryouts before he finally stuck again with a team.
And what's his name?
Stephen Baggett.
Okay. And where is he now?
Working for a financial company.
Okay. This is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, he made his dream. The Giants signed him after the draft. He had all these tryouts. He was here, there. Then he ended up with Cleveland, and it's an ultra competitive business. It is, they can't send you down to the minor leagues. So it's not like baseball and the developmental league and basketball, the juniors, the minors in hockey. It's different. You cut.
Now, can agents do multiple sports? Would you be able to do multiple sports?
Yes, I can, but it just, I think there's just too much. I don't have enough time to go around and watching sports year round. Do other guys do it? Yes, but that's their full-time job.
Yeah. This is not how you pay your bills. This is like probably how you go on.
No, would everyone like to eventually? I think one of the other guys in the agency, I think that this draft and the next one, he might be able to just retire from the, but he's a little older than us, so he's looking to retire anyway.
Yeah.
And then, go on from that there. But, once you have the money coming in with the kids signing those contracts, the second contracts, yeah, you could. But it's a grind.
Yeah. I mean, now here's something that's pretty interesting. You being with the police, and obviously with our social culture right now is a little different than it was just like even, 5-10 years ago. So cops, they weren't before, they were a little more celebrated. Now the heat's, rightfully on them. Like, not in that way. Like, is it tough for like some people that like, there's some anti-police rhetoric and you're being a cop? Does that hurt or help you in a way?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I am a very transparent person. So I do my research on backgrounds. If I know the coach, I talk to the coach and tell me but I have never had a kid that say, listen, I have a big problem. I'm a justice warrior. I really don't want to be represented by a cop. I've never had that. And I think that the media portrayal of what really people believe about law enforcement is not accurate. Because I've never, I get like, thank you for you and your family service. That's kind of the message I get from players,
I think the thing is, in all aspects of life, when two people sit down next to each other, they're going to have a nice conversation as opposed to two people sitting on their computer, and stuff. And I think when you get to know someone on a personal level and you're like, oh, you know what? I understand this guy more than I did, 10 minutes ago when I didn't, and I think that is something that probably helps, especially someone as personable as you, that probably helps you.
Right. Yeah, I think that, it's like everything in life, you know, you're going to have negative. It's just like I tell this to the kids when I teach it in college. The media wants to sell papers and have the ratings on TV. So what is the most popular thing to talk about? The police. It just sells, everyone wants to read about it, what's going on. And I don't think that everyone has a negative perception of police. Are there negatives in policing? Yes, it's bad people everywhere. I'm sure there's, lawyers that are getting jammed up for misconduct and everything else. But no one really cares if a lawyer is funneling funds or commingling funds because it doesn't sell papers. But if a cop gets involved in something and they put the video on, then it sells. The media has something to talk about.
Well, it's like anything else. Like, I mean, you're not going to talk about a plane that landed safely.
Right.
you
Without a doubt. And I don't begrudge. I just wish there was a little bit more transparency, like with the shooting in Chicago that happened. You know, uh, a cop is not chasing you with a gun and asking you how old you are, or the thing that, like, the police executed a child. That's not accurate at all, and that's the only thing I have a problem with.
I understand, I mean, but like getting back to the NFL and your players, is there any other player that you have that you just like you have a great story about that's like, hey, this is really cool, something like that?
Well, we had one kid, K1, played in the Super Bowl. So that was, with the 49ers, although they lost, that was good. What is the kids now are the oh, I tell you, my daughter is I brag about her all the time. She's a Division I athlete. I tell Pete that all the time.
What sport?
Track.
What sport? Okay.
So she was working late, and I always wait up for her because I'm the crazy dad. So I am watching the Hula Bowl, the All-Star game, the Hula Bowl this year. So
Okay.
we represent the center from Hawaii who was playing. So I said, let me stay up. I want to watch the game, even though, it was the time difference, because I think the game started like 11 o'clock at night. So I'm watching the game, and I'm watching the kid next to him just absolutely destroy people. So I says, who the heck is this kid? So I do a little research. Next thing I know, I found out he went to Tulane, and then he transferred to Louisiana Monroe. I got him on one thing led to another, and we wound up signing him to represent him just because I looked at that. Then I pulled some film up that I could see, and he's definitely a tough guy. So I get a call from one of the NFL teams, and so I talked to the scout, and I knew him from somebody else, and we're chatting on the phone. And I said, I got to be honest with you. I said, how did you find a kid from Louisiana Monroe? So he says, Jim, to be honest with you, I was sitting at home on a Friday night, and I started watching the Hula Bowl, and I see this kid just destroying people. And I'm saying, who is this kid? And I pulled film. So the next thing, another team calls me, and I asked the same question, tells me the same story. They saw the kid doing so well at the Hula Bowl, they had to find out who he was. So, watching all these games, you pick up players. Like I've been watching the historically black colleges because they're playing in the spring now. And I've noticed there's a couple kids there that are good football players, one
Yeah.
tight end in particular. So, I like watching for myself and then noticing the intangibles about kids and then doing the research.
When you're watching a game, if I'm watching a game with you, can you pinpoint something and be like, this is why this guy has a chance in the NFL, but this is why this guy doesn't have a chance in the NFL,
I
even though they
think
both.
I think with the offensive line, it's a little hard because you get the television angle. It's a little difficult because you don't always get to see them play. But when you see the offensive lineman downfield all the time, I think if I notice it, I know scouts are noticing it. The guy that's making that block and then going second level, then leading the running back down the field and just getting a piece. Because think about it, all you have to do is get a piece of a corner or get
Yeah.
in his way because the running backs are so fast to cut a different way. So I think that's a factor that will be picked up by teams and scouts saying, look at this guy. He's 100 miles an hour in every play. I think those are the kind of things, those little extra things where uh, going downfield, making blocks, receivers, the running backs picking guys up. I think the little extras that and I don't want to knock any players, but linemen are non-divas. They're just, the
Yeah.
old-fashioned tough guys. They hang
Yeah.
out with each other. So then you see the guy making that little extra. And that's how, honestly, I got the kid for Northwestern, Blake, watching the Big Ten, but I got a tip from a scout that told me, he said, watch this kid more. And he is a player.
It's funny you say the non-divas, because I used to be a reporter and I would cover the Jets back in 1999, 2000. Kevin Mawai was there, the great lineman for the Jets, a Hall of Famer. And so I would interview all these players and I could tell the difference. It's so funny. Like, oh, some people would be like, is there a difference between black and white players? And I'd be like, no, the difference is between positional players. Like that right. Is like Aaron Glenn, who, a corner or safety, one of the defensive.
Yeah, he's actually a coach now, Aaron Glenn.
He wanted to kill me. Like, I would ask him questions. And the funny thing about Aaron Glenn is his muscles had baby muscles, which had it's like, I was like, my God, I'm going to stop asking this guy tough questions.
Yeah.
And but Kevin Mawai, I would ask a question and he'd just give me a stare and then I'd get scared because I was a 25-year-old punk kid,
Yeah.
And I'd get like a little afraid and he'd be like, "No, man, it's okay."
Yeah. But no, the linemen, listen, you think about it. They have this quote, I don't know it exactly, but it ends up, it's talking about we don't get all the glory and the fanfare, but we're the reason why. The offensive line is the reason why. And I'm a firm believer in that. And you could probably ask quarterbacks the amount of hits they take, and they thank their offensive line. It's an unglorious position, but it makes the NFL go.
I wish I knew what quarterback it was. It was a backup quarterback for Dallas. I think Romo got injured one day, and he played, and he got hit like once or twice, and the lineman apologized profusely, and he's like, "What are you apologizing for? I would get hit 20 times a game." The team you played before. And I think that, you build for me, and I'm not an expert, but I like it when your team builds from the line up, defensively and offensively, because if you have a great offensive line, it gives your wide receivers a couple more seconds. It creates holes for your running back. It gives your quarterback more time. It makes all those players better.
Well, look at we've gone away from the NFL has gone away from, and they look at offensive linemen differently. Look at Penny Sewell and Rashawn Slater. They're going to go in the top 10 of draft picks. The thing is, the quarterbacks are going to go because let's not kid ourselves. Great teams that they could put a quarterback in for 12 to 15 years are going to go forever. But those offensive tackles that are going to be, a stalwart for 10 years are invaluable.
I mean, I just look at the Jets back in 2010, those years when they made the AFC championship games. They had great offensive line, and they had, that Thomas Jones was pretty old, but he led the league in rushing. And you had a guy like Mark Sanchez, who was, a rookie, and in his second year, he was able to lead the team to the championship game, even though his talent really wasn't at their level yet.
Well, you could also look at the old Giant teams. What are the old Giant teams were based on the offensive and defensive line? The Giants won that Super Bowl when the Patriots were undefeated because of the defensive line. You could not. Yes. I mean, Justin Tuck, those guys were phenomenal football players, and the grinders, the 150 miles an hour every play, and that's changes things. Look at why is Aaron Donald so valuable? I was watching something last night, and it was showing how teams triple team him.
Yes. Oh, watching him is just so much fun. And it's funny because when I said offensive line makes all your players better. Well, if you have a good defensive line, it makes all the other players worse. I see when the Jets rarely beat Tom Brady, but when they did, they'd get to him. And it's oh, this guy's shooting. We saw it with Mahomes in the Super Bowl this year. Mahomes was simply just an average quarterback when he had no line. He was running for his life, and an amazing job the way he ran for his life.
Well, you have to give Todd Bowles a lot of credit, I think, for the scheme he developed for that game. He did a great job scheming, and putting people in Mahomes' face the whole game. But you look at what the Jets, our greatest knowledge of the Jets, because Joe Namath was, teams were before. But look at that sack exchange.
Yes.
What, that was, Klecko and
Gastineau,
Gastineau, Abdul Salam,
Marty Lyons, right?
Marty Lyons. Yeah, Marty Lyons. You think about Marty Lyons, how great he played in the league a long time.
Yeah, I mean, did Klecko ever get in the Hall of Fame?
No, I still think, but Klecko was the only player to be voted All Pro with 3 different positions.
Yeah, he was number 73, if I remember correctly. He definitely is.
Yeah, 73. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I have his jersey. Someone bought me his jersey for a present one time.
Yeah, and I know his son, I think, played for New England, or at least
yes, he played for Temple, and then he played for New England. He gets a Super Bowl ring.
He got a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Oh, great.
That was Siri answering you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you, Siri. So basically, the just one couple more things real quickly. So you were Staten Island Lions football, right? Like that was kind of like how you started, like like that's one of your passions, right?
Well, I run what happened was the kids wanted to play travel football, so we got into Pop One and we play at it. Thank goodness for our high school, Monsignor Farrell. We play out of there, and we play travel football in Central Jersey. And I give a lot of credit to the kids, but they developed into some great football teams at Farrell. And I'm not patting us on the back, but the Central Jersey Pop One is a competitive Pop One league. So they're playing travel football, then they're going to play high school football. So it's almost like mini high school to go in there.
Yeah.
So I started with my kids. There's all the stuff in the basement is actually his. And they played, traveled, they did great. And then they went on to Farrell, and I think that we were counting one time. I think my son's senior year, I think 36 of the kids on the varsity play with us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess the last thing I'll kind of want to get is like your goals, your aspirations, where you see yourself 5 years later. Like where do you see yourself?
If I keep doing this, I hope that, I have some players that are, they don't have to be superstars, but quality football players in the league, and they'll probably be offensive and defensive line, because that's kind of where I've been recruiting, and tight ends. I've done well with tight ends of getting and it's their talent again, but getting kids contracts. If not, then I don't know, maybe the next president may have a cabinet position for me, and
well, that's why I say
something.
The DeSecchi's, man, they replaced him.
Listen, you can't sleep, right? You just got to keep moving and like a shark, right? And look other.
And honestly, just your name, Jimmy Durkin, like that could be a movie star name, like
yeah. Well, hopefully.
Like you get the lead character, the protecting the president. Oh, that's Jimmy Durkin.
Hey, listen, I maybe have to hire you to be my my go-to guy.
Yeah, I could be your agent.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Well, that's about all we have for today. I want to thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I learned a ton of stuff that I didn't know, and I've been a sports fan my whole life. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for your time, and as always, whenever, hopefully that the draft goes well for these kids. They worked hard, and I'm praying for them that they, realize their dream.
That would be great. And if we could catch us again at SportChant Interviews, this is Richie Glanzer. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you for listening to SportChant Interviews. Copyright 2021. SportChant Ltd. Yackers Huddle Media Group, Inc. All rights reserved.